Introducing Oyinkansola Alabi, popularly referred to as the Emotions Doctor, is the lead researcher, intellectual property owner, and the lead facilitator of Emotions City.
Welcome to the fourth module on relationship management, how Jesus became the epitome of relationship management, how he nurtured relationships, how he sustained relationship. So welcome to relationship management and Jesus. There are 7 Bible stories that I have. I think it's actually my favorite module. I just have a bias towards it, and why? Because relationship management is a strategy in which organizations maintain an ongoing level of engagement with its audience. So that's for the professional realm. While personally, relationship management is how you maintain an ongoing level of emotional stability with your support system. Everybody should have a support system. Everybody should have 3 sets of people in their lives. Number 1, first category, people who love you. Number 2, which is you listing their names, people you know that love you. Number 2, people you think that like you. You are thinking that they're on your side. Number 3, people who hate you. You should know them because they will serve your soul. Like they will remind you to never let your guards down. Those 3 flavors of people are crucial if you're above age 25 because they will surprise you and you don't want to be unpleasantly surprised. Like life will show up at your doorstep if you have no idea of who these people are. I'm aware you also know that betrayals are usually from people not too far from you. So don't go about suspecting or be suspicious, no, but know your eggs. That's who I call people close to me eggs. Eggs are people in your life that if anything happens to them, it would affect your sanity, affect the quality of your life and your soul. So know those people who keep your life bouncing. Know those people who keep your life balanced, like a wheel of life. Know them, know them, know them. Know your balls, people that are your acquaintances. So your eggs are your close friends, your family members, people who love you. Your acquaintances are people you think that like you. Those are your balls that if anything happens to them, they will bounce back, you will bounce back. But if anything happens to your egg, it would affect you. So relationship management is how we weave our relationships round to furnish us with emotional stability because no man was created to be independent. Even Jesus leveraged on relationships in the book of Genesis. Like God leveraged on relationships. After creating the world and all of that, he knew that he needed a human being to continue and to sustain, a human being to participate in whatever he was doing. And then after creating Adam, the next person he went ahead to create another human being. So you can see God saying, let me make them in my image so that they can continue this great thing that I have started. And then Eve came in. I've also observed that God does not give money, he gives relationships. So every time you pray for money, what you are praying is that God should send someone to you through products and services. That's if you are normal, not a scammer. God should send someone to patronize you or give you a deal or a contract through relationships like products and services. So every time you are looking to increase your greatness, according to the book of Psalms, you are discussing how you want to leverage on relationships. Every new breakthrough, every new miracle is always tied to a human being. I've just observed that I've never heard that anybody said, oh, I just saw the roof of my house opened and I saw dollars pouring in. I think that if you even see it, except you do money ritual, you will disappear. So every time, is either a salary increase, is either a new job, whatever it is, every time God uses people. So let's look at relationship management. My first story is the book of Matthew chapter 4. Matthew 4:18 to 22. Story is titled Jesus Calls His First Disciples. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. 19. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. So remember where we're coming from, self-awareness. Jesus knowing himself, he said, come follow me. Like he was clear about the vision and the mission. He articulated it straight away. Come follow me. And at once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James son of Zebedee and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. So I'm looking at it, I'm seeing that Jesus saw two brothers. He didn't call one and left the other. He saw two brothers. Then he proceeded to also call two other brothers. So I'm seeing first brother Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. Then the second one, James son of Zebedee and his brother John. And they left their boat and followed him. So Jesus is going recruiting people. In this particular verse, I see him recruiting brothers, explaining the vision to them, explaining the mission to them, letting them know why or what this was about, because he said, I will send you out to fish for people. So beyond the fact that they were fishermen, Jesus was saying to them, your expertise is fantastic and I love it, but I want us to move from fishermen to fishing for human beings. So Jesus is here explaining the vision, explaining the mission, and explaining the dynamics, the culture of what they're about to start. So stay with me. So Matthew 14:31 to 21. 13 to 21, yeah. 14, 13 to 21. Jesus feeds 5,000. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowd followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed the sick. So Jesus was on a boat preaching. People were following him. When he landed, he saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them and healed the sick. He didn't leave them sick. Like Jesus depicted humanity. They didn't even ask him to heal them. The Bible didn't record that part. He healed the sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place and it's getting late. Send the crowd away. Like the disciples said, whoa, send them away. Don't push this responsibility to us. Send them away so they can go to their villages and buy themselves some food. After we are preaching free, this thing is already free, like it's for exposure. Like we say 21st century. I want to preach for exposure. I want to expose you to who you don't want to be exposed to. Like, it's already for exposure. Like, let them go and buy food, though. We don't want this thing you are doing, though. 8:16, Jesus replied, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. Like, they wanted to abscond from responsibility. Jesus said, no, they're not going anywhere. Give them something to eat. 17, we have here just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. I'm sure on the back of my mind, loaves of bread and 2 fish. Even us want to eat. Like, these 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, not as we want to share it. We're just telling you for whatever it's worth, because we can't lie. 18, bring them here, he said, and he directed the people to sit down. The people that the disciples were very willing to chase away. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and he looked up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and they were satisfied. And the disciples picked up the 12 baskets, leftovers and all. But the crux of this is, Jesus was with some people that he was giving value for free. And he had every reason to have told them to go sort themselves out and come back. But he took responsibility for them. Like, he asked what the seed was, the available seed, and they said 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And because he knew who he was, he knew that he could turn that to feed an entire nation. And that was the exact thing that Jesus did. He didn't leave them hungry. Jesus displayed empathy. And that level of empathy is very unique, but because there are flavors and layers of empathy. At this particular point, the empathy Jesus expressed at that point is called empathic concern. Empathic concern. Meaning, I do not just think about what you're thinking, which is cognitive empathy, or feel what you are feeling, but I am stepping into your shoes and I'm helping you because I can. Empathic concern. Jesus fed them because it was clear that they were all hungry. Third story, the Good Shepherd and the Good Samaritan. John 10, 1 to 41. Discussing relationship management and Jesus. Good Shepherd and the Good Samaritan. So, verse 1 to 41. Let's see. Try to open it. 1 to 41. I think I will open that in some few seconds, but let's go to, while I'm trying to sort that out on my system, let's go to the next story, which is Lazarus being raised to life. I love that. Lazarus, my guy. Lazarus being raised to life. John 11, 1 to 55. So now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sister sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. Like, how can you say that? They didn't even say, Lord, Lazarus is sick. Like, they pinned him down. Like, we know you are busy. We know that everybody wants a piece of you, but the one you love, like your best friend, your close friend is sick. That was a level of emotional blackmail. Like, the one you love, you send him, is sick. 4, when he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. So it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Like, how do you hear that the one you love is sick and you stay more for 2 more days? Like, is that friendship or wickedness? That's witchcraft. That's being a betrayer. Like, the one you love is sick, and instead of you to take the next available flight, or how, just get there. The Bible says he loved Mary and Martha and the brother, everybody, and because he loved them, he stayed 2 more days. And then he said to the disciples, let us go back to Judea. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago, the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you were going back. Jesus said, are there not 12 hours of daylight and all of that? Yeah. So 11. After he said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, meaning Lazarus has died, but I'm going there to wake him up. So Jesus didn't show up when Lazarus was ill. In fact, the Bible records that because he loved Lazarus and his family members, he stayed 2 more days. And then when Lazarus died, Jesus said, I am going to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better now. Like, Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought it meant natural sleep. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him. Then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Interesting. So Lazarus had not just died, the guy had been buried. Not just buried, he had been buried for 4 days, 96 hours. Yeah, my math is good. Yeah, 96 hours. Now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, that was the same Jesus that they told that his friend was ill. Your friend that you love was ill. She went out to him to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Like, if you had been here, like we called you, we informed you. You cannot say that you didn't hear. You can't deny it. It was not a phone call. It was not a text message. We told you. He would have been alive. He wouldn't have died. But I know, that is Martha now, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. Like Martha, in the same statement, was confronting the issue and still deferring to the God in him. So the human side, she was confronting him and saying, but you knew, you heard. And at the same time, she said, but I know that God will give you what you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said, yes. 28. After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was moved in the spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Then the Bible records for the first and last time that Jesus wept. Now I have a challenge with the fact that Jesus wept, and let me explain it to you. Not just a challenge, but it amused me because I was wondering. They called you before he died, you did not show up. You showed up 4 days after he had been buried. And then just when you were about to perform a miracle that you knew and you understood that it was going to take you less than 10 seconds to wake him up. But before going to perform the miracle, Jesus first of all recognized with humanity. So it was recorded that Mary and Martha wept and they were weeping. People who were there also were troubled and wept. So now they were having a crying festival. Jesus did not show up or show off by just going to wake Lazarus up. No, that would have been the in thing actually. Like in between the crying festival, he will show up and show off. But because Jesus is not into the games of playing or proving points, he first of all became human by crying because they cried. Jesus did not cry just because he wanted to cry, but because that was what a natural person would do to their friend or for their friend and the friend's sister and siblings. Jesus first of all wept according to John 11:35. Then the Jews said, see how we loved him. But some of them started saying whatever they wanted to say. Good. So let's see. 38, after he wept. That weeping makes me see that even God understands emotions. You know how sometimes we tell people to move on? How people lose people and then we're quick to give words and advise them. Please, stop it. I just, move on now. Or even just lay hands on them and that's all. I don't have a challenge with laying of hands. I am a pastor, so I don't have a challenge with it. But there are some words that please and please, if you do not have anything good to say, silence is a voice. It was not recorded at any point in time. Like in the entire conversation, all Jesus said was, take me to where you buried him. Jesus did not say anything. He just kept saying, take me to where you buried him. It was the sisters that were saying, if you had been here, they were the ones telling him. He didn't show up. He didn't show off. He didn't do anything. No. He was not with ego or pride, even though he had every reason. The Son of God and Son of Man simply said, take me to where you buried him. But before he performed the miracle, he wept because they wept. Jesus was 100% human and 100% God. After weeping, he wiped his tears and moved on to the grave or to the tomb. And he even had to mention Lazarus' name, because if Jesus had said, come forth alone, all the dead bodies would have risen. And he was not there to raise everybody. He had a particular name he went for. Lazarus, come forth. And that's how he came forth. 100% God, 100% man. Jesus felt his feelings. Jesus was not ready. Jesus expressed himself. He didn't pretend. He didn't hide his feelings. He didn't hide the fact that he could have shown up earlier or showed up earlier, but for the will of God to be done, he waited 2 extra days. The 2 extra days, according to him, was the will of God. And he had to wait. So he did not waste time because he couldn't show up. He had to wait for him to perform that miracle and for people to believe. That is the God that you and I serve. Very human. And that's why, for example, when David messed up, after sleeping and committing adultery and murder, David was still regarded as the man after God's own heart because David was transparent. David was a child. David was always going back to the one who called him, created him. David was eternally humble. And because God sees the heart, he goes for the heart. So let's see. Matthew 7:12 articulates doing unto others what you want them to do to you. Matthew 18:21 to 35. So let's see. Matthew 18:21 to 35. The story of the parable and the unmerciful servant. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked him, how many times shall I forgive my brother who sins against me up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, 70 times 7, 490. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who holding 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient, he begged, and I will pay back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, cancelled the debt, and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. Like he owed 10,000 bags of gold. And they cancelled the debt. Now somebody was owing him 100 silver coins. Coins, so not gold, coins. He was owing 10,000 bags of gold. They cancelled. How you and I pray for debt cancellation? They cancelled. Somebody else was owing him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me. His fellow servant fell on his knees and begged him, be patient with me, I will pay it back. But he refused. Instead, he went off, had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. Wow. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said, I cancelled all that debt of yours because you begged me. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he paid back all he owed. And this is how my heavenly Father would treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or your sister from your heart. But my crux is, how will somebody wipe away 10,000 bags of gold and somebody else was owing you 100 bags of coins and you tortured the person and you were begging to be forgiven? Interesting. Like he could not even extend the grace he received onto the other person. You know, something I usually say is that when you taste grace, you will not offer this grace. This gentleman tasted grace and served this grace as a buffet. Interesting. But that is not the God that we serve. Jesus is talking about 1 Corinthians 11, Galatians 5:22, where we have it at the back of our minds. There's something I usually say, which is you and I will be more dead than we're alive. Has it ever occurred to you that once you die, you have died? Like if you die in 2080, 60 years from now, once you die in 2080, forever you have died. You are not coming back again to do anything. So while you are alive, let's say you would even be alive for 90 years. While you are alive and around for 90 years, it is shorter. Your time on earth is shorter than your time in death. When you die, you have died. So if your time on earth is shorter than your time in death, then you and I should be more circumspect. I have met some people who will disengage, who will disagree and disengage, like they will fight scatter, they will have closure. Some will even use the F word. We have all grown, we are growing, and every time we celebrate a birthday, it should mean that we're growing in wisdom and in strength, not just in stature. And money is not a symbol of wealth, even though money answereth all things. Money is a tool of performance. Relationship management is the sum total of the relationship you have with yourself and with everybody tied to you, your friends, your enemies, and people who hate your existence. You need the capacity to manage them. Jesus was the Son of God. People hated him. Part of the people who hated him crucified him, but everything was still in the will of God. So all your experiences are valid. The bullets people shoot at you are valid because we are expected to turn our bullets to power. All our dips and our valleys are lending a helping hand to the stories of our lives. If you have not listened to my audio series on what stories are you telling yourself and the difference between the story of your life and your life story, it's a fantastic time. Because your relationship with yourself, how you treat yourself, how you think, how you speak, the respect you have for yourself and other people is the sum total of your net worth and your networks. It's the sum total of the level of greatness you would enjoy, because relationship management is key. People have to refer you. The money you are looking for is in somebody's hand and has to be introduced through somebody's mouth. So somebody has to refer you and somebody has to confirm the referral for that exchange to take place. So we cannot be acting like Malians. If you know what that means, we can't be doing anyhow. Relationship is key. Relationship with everybody, including the people who may never be able to help you in life. Relationship is key. People you think cannot add value to you, relationship with them is key. Relationship with everybody around you is extremely key. The next and final module, I will be teaching on how to turn emotional intelligence, the new gold, into money. Thank you for staying with me till this point. I hope you have learned a thing or two. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this timeless teaching. For bookings or details on the Emotion City, please visit www.emotioncity.com.